streets are on edge. Sirens scream through the air. A young woman lies dead, brutally attacked in what should have been an ordinary evening. But this wasn't a random act of violence. It was a calculated, savage assault. And the most disturbing part? The killer celebrated after the act. That's where we are now. This isn't just a crime. It's a mirror held up to a country spinning out of control. Across the UK, the numbers don't lie. Over 50,000 stabbing attacks every year. That's nearly one every 10 minutes. With tensions rising across the UK and thousands taking to the streets of London right now, it's more important than ever to see the full picture. If you want to stay updated on the situation as it unfolds, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. I'm covering the angles the mainstream media might miss, like this video if you believe in unfiltered reporting. And those are just the ones reported. Violence is no longer the exception. It's becoming the rhythm of daily life. Machetes, knives, and assaults that feel more like battlefield tactics than street crime. And while the public grows more terrified, the justice system seems completely unequipped or unwilling to keep up. And here's the gut punch. Many of these criminals aren't being locked up for long. Thanks to the early release scheme, known as SDS-40, tens of thousands of violent offenders are being pushed back into society early. Why? Because prisons are overflowing. And why are they overflowing? Because thousands of illegal migrants are crossing the channel daily, with many being funneled into detention centers that can't handle the load. The system is caving in on itself. This isn't a drill. It's a full-blown social crisis. The UK's border situation has gone from urgent to unmanageable. With hotels fully booked to house incoming migrants and prisons bursting at the seams, the government's solution is to free up space by releasing known criminals. Public safety is now a numbers game. And the result? More chaos, more crime, more fear. And here's the part that really pushes people over the edge. The government's treatment of long-time British citizens versus new arrivals. While billions are being spent on housing asylum seekers in hotels, some of them four-star facilities, elderly citizens are having their winter fuel payments cancelled. Pensioners are choosing between heating and eating, while taxpayer money pays for room service and satellite TV and migrant accommodations. It's austerity for some, luxury for others. Protests have erupted. People are angry, and they have every reason to be. Streets are filled with demonstrators demanding change, demanding protection, demanding justice. They want the right to defend themselves, the right to feel safe in their own country. But in the UK, even non-lethal self-defense tools like pepper spray are illegal. Carrying one could get you jail time. Meanwhile, violent offenders walk free under policy loopholes. The double standard is unbearable. I know things feel really heavy in the UK right now. There's a lot of division and noise on the streets, but I want this channel to be a place where we can come together. If you want to be part of a supportive community, please subscribe. And like this video to show some love to everyone feeling anxious about the state of things right now. Stay safe out there, everyone. Here's a chilling comparison. In the U.S., citizens are constitutionally allowed to defend themselves. The Second Amendment protects the right to bear arms, and pepper spray and tasers are commonly used for personal protection. In the UK, those options are criminalized. You're not just offenseless, you're legally disarmed. So while criminals carry machetes and blades, citizens have to hope for the best. There's no safety net, no margin for error, and no realistic way to fight back. And let's talk about the justice system. It's not just overwhelmed, it's broken. Foreign nationals committing serious crimes often treated more leniently than native Brits, especially those who claim to be minors. Some migrants arrive without identification, claim they are under 18, and are processed accordingly. Even when they are clearly adults, the system often takes their word at face value. That means lighter sentences, protected housing, and even access to schools, while victims and the public are left outraged. Meanwhile, native citizens are being hit with disproportionate sentences for relatively minor infractions. The imbalance is fueling resentment, and it's not hard to see why. People feel like second-class citizens in their own country. When law-abiding people are punished for protecting themselves, and violent offenders are rewarded with early release, something is deeply wrong. And the trust? It's gone. Public confidence in the system is collapsing. The sense of fairness, of safety, of justice, it's all eroding. What's left is a society that feels abandoned. Even major political figures aren't staying quiet. Donald Trump has publicly criticized London's leadership, calling out what he sees as a failure of governance. Nigel Farage and others have joined in, using this crisis as evidence that the current political class has completely lost control. The UK government's insistence on political correctness and leniency is now seen as the very root of the problem, and the public is losing patience. Fireworks explode in the streets, not in celebration, but in protests. Massive crowds clashing with police, angry at what they see as a betrayal. People want real change, not more empty promises. They want borders that are actually controlled, prisons that don't release criminals early just to make space, laws that allow them to defend themselves, leaders who actually prioritize their safety. But so far, it's been silence, deflection, or outright denial. And all of this is happening against a backdrop of worsening economic conditions. Inflation. You've seen the headlines, but the atmosphere down here is completely different. Subscribe so you don't miss the raw footage I'm releasing later this week, and like this video to help push this unfiltered reporting up the algorithm. Housing shortages, strained hospitals, now add thousands of migrants into the mix. The infrastructure can't handle it. Emergency rooms are packed. Public housing is beyond capacity. Even the border force is maxed out. It's not sustainable. The country is being asked to carry a weight it simply can't hold, and the cracks are showing everywhere. The early release scheme, SDS-40, is a perfect example. Tens of thousands of violent offenders let go, not because they've been rehabilitated, but because there's literally no room to keep them. That's not reform. That's desperation. And when those offenders go on to commit new crimes, which many of them do, the blame falls squarely on those who allowed it. Let's not forget, this isn't hypothetical. The murder of Rhiannon White and the disturbing celebration by her killer is a real-world consequence of these failures. It's what happens when you value system efficiency over actual safety, when your policies protect the violent over the vulnerable. And for many citizens, the message is clear. If you're a lifelong Brit struggling to get by, don't expect help. If you're a violent offender or an undocumented migrant, the system will bend over backwards for you. That's not just unjust, it's unsustainable. The social contract, that unspoken agreement between the government and the people, is being torn apart. Citizens agree to follow the rules, to pay their taxes, to contribute. In return, they expect protection, fairness, and a functioning society. But what happens when one side stops holding up its end? You get what we're seeing now: rage, protest, breakdown. You get a country where people feel they have to take to the streets just to be heard, where they are told to trust a justice system that actively punishes them for defending themselves, where the government appears more interested in international optics than domestic stability. The long-term outlook? Without serious, immediate reform, this only gets worse. The rising tide of violence, the economic strain, the unchecked border crisis, and the loss of public trust, none of it resolves on its own. And the longer the government waits, the more brittle the situation becomes. Reform isn't just a political talking point. It's a matter of survival. Self-defense laws must be reviewed. Non-lethal tools like pepper spray and tasers should be available to law-abiding citizens. The early release scheme must be dismantled before it causes more harm. Border security needs more than flashy press releases. It needs action. And the justice system? It must treat all offenders equally, regardless of nationality or age claims. The current imbalance is tearing society apart. Because right now, the message being sent is loud and clear. Violence has no real consequences, and those trying to stay safe are on their own. With tensions rising across the UK and thousands taking to the streets of London right now, it's more important than ever to see the full picture. If you want to stay updated on the situation as it unfolds, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. I'm covering the angles the mainstream media might miss, like this video if you believe in unfiltered reporting. That can't stand. If you feel like this story needs to be heard, share this video. If you're angry, confused, or just want answers, drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you want to stay updated as the situation develops, hit that subscribe button. There's more to uncover, more stories to tell, and the next chapter might be even worse. Stay safe, stay alert, and keep watching. Let's not sugarcoat it. What's happening in the UK right now isn't just a rough patch. It's a systemic breakdown, playing out in real time, while those in charge either look away or talk in circles. You've got a government that seems more invested in optics than outcomes, and a population that's done waiting for leadership. The disconnect? Massive. The consequences? Already here. Think about what it means when your government is prioritizing early release for violent criminals, not because they deserve a second chance, but because they physically have no room left in the system. That's not reform. That's surrender. SDS-40, the so-called solution to overcrowded prisons, is a revolving door for danger. Criminals are walking free, not after years of rehabilitation or due process, but because there are no beds left. And if they reoffend, which many do, who pays the price? You do. The public does. Victims do. And it's not like this is happening in isolation. It's happening while illegal migration continues at levels the government can't manage. Thousands crossing the channel every day. Border enforcement is stretched thin. Processing centers are overwhelmed. And instead of tightening controls, authorities are sticking people in hotels with all the amenities funded by taxpayers. That's the part that really stings. Because while these services are extended to new arrivals, long-time British citizens are being told to cut back. Elderly people, who worked their entire lives, paid into the system, built the country up, are now losing their winter fuel payments. They are literally being told to turn the heating off and layer up, while billions are spent on housing and feeding people who didn't even come through legal channels. That is not just a policy failure, that's a moral one. And people have noticed. The mood on the street isn't subtle. It's fury. It's exhaustion. It's despair turning into defiance. Protesters are out in force, demanding answers that no one in government seems willing or able to provide. They want real protections. They want common sense reforms. And most of all, they want to know they still matter in a country that seems to have forgotten them. I know things feel really heavy in the UK right now. There's a lot of division and noise on the streets, but I want this channel to be a place where we can come together. If you want to be part of a supportive community, please subscribe. And like this video to show some love to everyone feeling anxious about the state of things right now. Stay safe out there, everyone. Now let's talk about the laws that claim to protect you, but don't. If you're attacked in the UK, your options are limited. Defend yourself too aggressively, and you might be the one facing charges. Carry pepper spray? That's illegal. A taser? Same deal. Even something as basic as a small, non-lethal defense tool can land you in legal hot water. The law treats you as a potential criminal before you even act. Meanwhile, the people committing the actual violence, those carrying machetes, knives, and worse, are often back on the streets within months. The imbalance is outrageous. The law isn't just failing to protect citizens, it's actively standing in their way. And all of this is driving a deep wedge between the public and the institutions that are supposed to save them. The police, the courts, the political leadership. Trust is evaporating. And why wouldn't it? When you see someone brutalize another person and walk free in under a year while a pensioner gets fined or arrested for trying to protect themselves or their property, the whole system feels upside down. That's where we are. Upside down. There's also this disturbing trend that keeps coming up, selective enforcement. When crimes are committed by certain groups, especially those claiming to be underage migrants, the consequences seem to vanish. There are documented cases of individuals gaming the system, lying about their age, withholding IDs, and getting access to services and protections meant for minors, even when it's obvious they are adults. Yet the system plays along, afraid to offend or be accused of discrimination. Meanwhile, native Brits who break the law, sometimes for things like social media posts, are defending their homes, get the full weight of the system thrown at them. The inconsistency isn't just frustrating. It's dangerous. Because once people lose faith that the law is applied equally, they stop believing in the law altogether. That's when the real breakdown begins. What we're watching isn't a series of unrelated incidents. It's a pattern. Rising violent crime. A government that can't, or won't, protect its citizens. Infrastructure buckling under pressure. A justice system twisted by political fear. And a public that's getting louder, angrier, more desperate by the day. This isn't just a policy issue, it's a warning flare. And if it's ignored, the consequences won't just be political, they'll be irreversible. At the core of all this is a profound identity crisis. What does it mean to be a citizen in the mall? What responsibilities does the state have to its people? And what happens when it fails to meet them? You've seen the headlines, but the atmosphere down here is completely different. Subscribe so you don't miss the raw footage I'm releasing later this week, and like this video to help push this unfiltered reporting up the algorithm. If the answer is deal with it, don't be surprised when people stop following the rules altogether. Social contracts aren't suggestions. They're the foundation of civil society. Break that contract, and everything else starts to break with it. And yes, there's a cultural element to this too. When people feel like they're not allowed to talk about these issues, when legitimate concerns get dismissed as bigotry or alarmism, they don't just get quiet. They get louder. They take to the streets. They organize. And if they feel like no one's listening, they escalate. That's not a justification. It's a forecast. We've already seen public outrage spill over into full-blown street chaos. Property damage, violent clashes with police, firework attacks. These aren't protests anymore. They are signals. Signals that the status quo is no longer sustainable. That people aren't going to sit quietly while their safety, dignity, and rights are pushed aside. What's worse is that leadership seems completely paralyzed. Caught between political correctness and actual governance, officials are issuing half measures, buzzwords, and shallow promises. But there's no plan, no timeline, no accountability. And without that, the anger will keep growing, the crime will keep rising, and the system will keep cracking. If you want to talk about rebuilding trust, it starts with fixing the basics. That means tightening borders, not just with sound bites, but with real, functional enforcement. It means ending the early release scheme, no exceptions. If prisons are full, build more. If the laws are too lenient, change them. If citizens can't legally defend themselves, that's not safety, it's surrender. This isn't about ideology. It's about reality. And the reality is that people are afraid, not of abstract threats, of real, tangible danger in their neighborhoods, of violent crimes that don't make national headlines because they are no longer shocking, they're expected. That kind of fear corrodes everything. It makes communities isolate. It kills social trust. And worst of all, it creates a society where people start to believe they're on their own. And maybe they are right, because when the state fails to protect you, refuses to let you protect yourself, and punishes you when you try, what exactly are you supposed to do? This isn't just about one incident, or one policy, or one political party. It's a cumulative effect of years of looking the other way, of ignoring warning signs, of pretending everything's fine while the foundation cracks. And the scary truth? Those cracks are now fault lines. One more push, and things could break wide open. So, where does that leave us? With tensions rising across the UK and thousands taking to the streets of London right now, it's more important than ever to see the full picture. If you want to stay updated on the situation as it unfolds, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. I'm covering the angles the mainstream media might miss, like this video if you believe in unfiltered reporting. With a choice. Either demand change now, loudly, persistently, and unapologetically, or accept that this is a new normal. That violence is part of daily life. That laws only protect some. That your safety is secondary to someone else's comfort. That's the direction we're heading in. And if enough people don't stand up and say no more, then yes, collapse is inevitable. The system is stretched thin. The people are stretched even thinner. Something has to give. Here's the brutal truth. No one's coming to fix this for you. That's the part people are starting to understand. And it's terrifying. The illusion of order, of safety, of a government with a plan, it's collapsing under the weight of its own contradictions. You can't claim to be protecting the public while releasing thousands of violent offenders early just to make room for new arrivals. You can't preach fairness while enforcing laws that punish citizens more harshly than the criminals terrorizing them. You can't demand trust when you've done absolutely nothing to earn it. And yet, that's exactly what's happening. We've reached the point where the public is expected to tolerate violence as a fact of life. Knife attacks, machete assaults, street brawls, and riots. This is all becoming so normalized that the outrage cycle burns out within 24 hours. One day at a brutal stabbing, the next at a firework-wielding gang tearing through a city center. And what happens after the footage goes viral? Maybe a vague government statement, a few social media arguments, and then silence until the next one. This isn't just exhaustion. It's strategic apathy. They want you to stop reacting. They want you desensitized. Because the more you accept the chaos, the easier it is for those in power to keep doing nothing. But people aren't stupid. They know when they are being manipulated. They know when the system is broken beyond reform. And that's exactly why protests have been turning into outright revolts. Let's talk about that firework riot. Because it wasn't just some antisocial youth problem, as the media might spin it. It was a symptom of lawlessness, of communities pushed to the edge, some by frustration, others by opportunism, and all of it happening under the watch of a government that has no idea how to respond. Fireworks as weapons? That's not just vandalism. That's street-level warfare. And it's spreading. You can't enforce peace if you've already surrendered authority. And right now, police are stuck in an impossible situation, under-resourced, over-politicized, and tasked with cleaning up after policies they had no hand in making. They are being asked to maintain order in places where order has already been lost. And when things inevitably boil over, guess who gets blamed? Not the politicians who caused this. The officers on the ground. The public servants trying to hold the line with tools that are no longer enough. Meanwhile, people are forced to take risks just to stay safe. They install home security systems, carry illegal self-defense tools in secret, avoid public spaces after dark, not because they are paranoid, but because they've learned the hard way that help isn't coming. And when they do fight back, when they push back against an attacker or defend their property, they get dragged through the legal system like criminals. Charged, fined, shamed. There's no protection, only punishment. That's the reality for the average person right now. You get told to stay calm, to trust the process, while watching every institution around you fall apart in slow motion. Hospitals can't keep up. Schools are overcrowded. Emergency services are stretched. And prisons? Forget it. SDS-40 is proof the entire correctional system is hanging by a thread. Tens of thousands of criminals, many of them violent repeat offenders, released early, not because they are safe, but because there's physically no space to hold them. You'd think that alone would cause a national uproar. But again, normalization, crisis fatigue. It's the same with the channel crossings. People used to be shocked when a boat of 50 migrants arrived. Now, it's thousands. Every week. It's a volume the system was never built to handle, and there's no real plan to slow it down. Just more hotels, more taxpayer money, more temporary fixes that don't address the actual problem. And don't forget, while all of this unfolds, the average citizen is told to cut back, to sacrifice, to tighten their belts. Elderly people who fought wars, paid taxes, and built the welfare state are now losing heating support in winter. That's not just cruel, it's humiliating. These are people who lived by the rules, who trusted the system, and now they're being left to freeze while billions are spent accommodating migrants in full-service hotels. It's beyond ironic. It's obscene. If there's any part of this that still surprises people, it's only because they've been insulated by privilege. But that bubble is bursting fast. Crime doesn't care about postal codes. When the system breaks, everyone feels it. And right now, more and more people are realizing that no matter how careful they are, how law-abiding they try to be, they are still vulnerable. Because the government has made it crystal clear they are not the priority. And when you're not the priority, your safety becomes optional. Your rights become negotiable. Let's take a closer look at the so-called justice system. You'd think the one thing a country could do is apply its laws fairly. But in the UK, that's no longer the case. The perception, and in many cases, the reality, is that certain groups are handled with kid gloves, while others are thrown under the bus. Foreign offenders get leniency. British citizens get lectures. If you're native-born and you lash out in fear or frustration, the system will come down on you with full force. If you're a migrant with no papers and a vague age claim, the system bends itself into knots to accommodate you. That kind of imbalance doesn't just erode trust, it obliterates it. We're now seeing what happens when people feel like the law is no longer theirs. When the idea of justice becomes something you read about in history books. The outrage isn't random, it's targeted. Because citizens can clearly see who's benefiting from the chaos and who's suffering under it. The system plays favorites. And those favorites aren't the people who built the country. They are the ones the government fears upsetting. That fear? It's paralyzing. No one wants to be accused of insensitivity. No one wants to be labeled. So instead of honest discussions about crime, migration, and safety, we get platitudes, euphemisms, empty statements about community cohesion while the streets fall apart. This is a political equivalent of rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic. And it's happening in broad daylight. If you're waiting for a fix to come from the top, don't hold your breath. Every sign points to further breakdown. The economy is under pressure. Public services are barely functioning. And the culture war around immigration and crime is only getting more volatile. The pressure cooker is at full steam, and no one's reaching for the release valve. But here's the thing, silence won't save you. And pretending this isn't happening doesn't make it stop. The country is at a crossroads, and people know it. That's why more and more are speaking up, protesting, organizing. Because this isn't about party politics anymore. It's about survival. It's about whether ordinary people are going to be protected or sacrificed in the name of some political illusion of progress. Because right now, everything about this moment feels like a warning. And the question that no one in power wants to answer is the one on everyone's mind. How much worse does it have to get? And here's the part that makes people truly furious. They saw it coming. This wasn't a surprise. It wasn't a random escalation. For years, the warnings were there. Community leaders flagging overcrowding in public housing, police unions raising red flags about violent crime, even frontline workers in hospitals and schools quietly admitting they were at their breaking point. And what did they get in response? Dismissal, bureaucratic shrugs, PR statements with all the sincerity of a soggy press release. People aren't mad just because things are falling apart. They are mad because they asked for help and no one listened. And now, when chaos is spilled out into the streets, when knives are drawn in broad daylight, fireworks explode like war zones in town centers, and violent offenders are celebrating their crimes, now the same leaders who ignored the signs are pretending to be shocked, playing catch-up, spinning it as isolated incidents when the whole country knows it's not. You don't get a firestorm without a trail of gasoline behind it. Let's go back to the early release scheme for a second, because if there's a better symbol of this government's failure, it doesn't exist. SDS 40 isn't just bad policy, it's a betrayal of public safety. Releasing tens of thousands of inmates early, many with violent records, just because there's no room left in prison, that's not governance. That's giving up. And what's worse is, no one even bothered to ask the public how they felt about it. This wasn't a vote. This wasn't a consultation. It was a quiet, top-down decision that made life more dangerous for every single person outside those prison walls. And the message couldn't be clearer. We're not prepared. You're on your own. And so, people are acting accordingly. You can feel it, this slow shift where the average person no longer expects protection. They are changing their routines, skipping nights out, keeping their kid closer, ordering self-defense tools online and hoping they don't get caught with them. It's survival mode. And it's heartbreaking because it never used to be like this. There used to be a time when people felt safe, when they believed the police would show up, the courts would be fair, the government would back them. That belief is gone now, replaced by a growing, knowing sense that the rules only apply to you, and that if you step out of line even once, even in self-defense, the full force of the law will come crashing down. Just ask the people who tried to fight back, the shopkeeper who tackled a thief and got arrested, the pensioner who defended her home and ended up in court. These stories aren't one-offs. They are becoming more common, more publicized, and more outrageous. And each time it happens, public trust drops another inch into the abyss. It's not just about crime. It's about who gets punished for what. And right now, if you're a lifelong citizen who believes in law and order, you're starting to wonder if those beliefs are now liabilities. But if you dare to say any of this too loudly, what happens? You're accused of being reactionary, of overreacting, of punching down. You're told to be quiet, to consider the optics, to have more understanding for the complex pressures a government faces. But let's be honest here, how much more understanding can the public be expected to give? The hospitals are overcrowded. The schools are underfunded. The police are stretched to their limits. The elderly are skipping meals to afford heating. Meanwhile, the state spends billions housing illegal arrivals in luxury hotels, providing round-the-clock care, legal support, and financial allowances, all while law-abiding citizens are punished for speaking out about it. This isn't a lack of compassion. This is a failure of priorities. And when you take that frustration, then mix in crime, broken legal systems, and an elite political class that treats citizens like they're the problem, you get what we're seeing now, societal fracture. It's not just a political divide anymore. It's deeper, cultural, moral. People don't agree on what's fair, what's legal, what's even true anymore. One side sees law-abiding citizens demanding safety. The other sees a threat to their political narrative. And in the middle, chaos, riots, protests, silence from above. And just to make things more dystopian, let's talk about the justice system's new favorite loophole, age manipulation. This is happening. Individuals arrive at the UK border with no ID, no documents, claim to be minors, and just like that, they are granted protections most British citizens could only dream of. Priority housing, no detention, lighter sentencing, and in some cases, their crimes are brushed aside entirely, shielded by the idea that they are vulnerable youth. But here's the thing, many of them aren't minors. The public knows it. Even frontline workers know it. But they are told to stay quiet, to follow the process, to avoid controversy. And when these individuals go on to commit crimes, when someone gets attacked, assaulted, or worse, the system still refuses to change course. No public apology, no policy correction, just more quiet damage, more victims, more outrage. And the more you talk about it, the more you're gaslit into thinking you're the problem. You're the bigot. You're the one making things worse. That's how far down the rabbit hole we've gone. The people in charge seem more afraid of being called offensive than of letting their own citizens get hurt. They are so paralyzed by the fear of political backlash that they'd rather watch society burn in slow motion than admit the obvious. This isn't working. So where does it go from here? That's the scariest part, because no one really knows. People are angry, yes, but they're also tired. And when outrage turns into hopelessness, when the public stops believing that change is even possible, that's when democracies get dangerous. That's when extreme voices step in. That's when chaos stops being the exception and becomes the expectation. But it doesn't have to end like that. Not yet. There's still a moment, this moment, where people can demand better. Demand real reform. Demand leaders who prioritize the safety of their citizens over the optics of their press releases. This is the moment to say, enough. Because if this continues unchecked, if the knives keep flashing in the streets, if the criminals keep walking free, if the elderly keep freezing while luxury hotels remain warm, then the collapse isn't theoretical anymore. It's inevitable. And for what? For politics? For spin? For short-term headlines and long-term disaster? No, the public deserves more than that. And the time to say so is now. So speak up, leave a comment, talk to your friends. Ask the questions no one in power seems willing to answer. And if you're one of the millions watching this all unfold and wondering if you're the only one who feels like this, you're not. We're here. We're watching. We're not backing down. Subscribe to the channel if you want the truth the headlines won't give you. Share this video if you're tired of being told to wait your turn while the country spirals. And most of all, stay loud, because silence isn't safety. It's surrender. And we're not surrendering.